1. Always giving up. Just because you fail once or twice doesn't mean you can't do it. I mean, it does, but listen. I know that there are more problems that you can move on to, but you chose this problem specifically, probably with the hopes of climbing it, right? Whatever the reason is, stick with it for at least a bit of time, will you? When faced with something particularly difficult, don't quit so easily. Especially if you made the decision yourself. Like, come on, what type of attitude is that? If you failed the first move, it does not mean you were gonna fail the rest of the moves. In climbing, a lot of problems are made harder by adding an additional sit start. Likewise, a lot of problems are made easier by plugging in a stand start. Just because the tape says to start here doesn't exactly always mean you have to start there. You're not in a competing because you're not a comp climber. You get no special rewards for exactly starting there. If you want to get better, you should do as much of the climb as you can. 80% of a climb done is better than feeling dejected on 10% of the climb. Walking away and believing you just had no shot. Believe it or not, climbing isn't so unfair that it'll shut you down on every single move, unless you completely overshoot it. 2. Never trying harder climbs. You may mayhaps have it set in your head that you are a particular certain level of climber, and because you're at that particular level, you're incapable of moving any higher until you move higher at some unpredetermined point of time. However, brother, my man, my G, you should still try. There's no good reason to limit your range of climbs. You're going to fall, that much is pretty much obvious, but sometimes occasionally you will find that you did not fall. Not to mention mentally locking your physical prowess due to grades is fundamentally a way to slow down your climbing progress. Imagine what could happen if you just said yes to every single climb and tried it. Each climb is a new opportunity to become better. This approach is much more fun and more progressive and progressing than he who just subjects himself to a certain amount of climbs at a certain level. Now, obviously, it's not the best idea to do nothing but just select the hardest climbs and beat your head against the wall and fall off of them. So for that, I recommend you try very, very hard climbs 1 to 3 times. 3 times probably before you move on. And when you try these very hard climbs, I want you to get better at them, not necessarily do them. What does it mean to get better at something you can't do though, right? Well, you could hold it better by adjusting your hands to make it feel better. You could adjust the start positioning to make it feel better before you even lift off the ground. And these minute adjustments that you make on these really hard climbs that you can't even do gives you experience putting your body in a better position. And in the long run, it'll help improve your body positioning, not to mention your mindset of possibilities being possible. 3. Ignoring training. Climbing, generally speaking, is always the best way to get good at climbing, but you can only go so far before your weaknesses start to hold you back. Hangboarding is specifically designed to strengthen the fingers and can be adjusted to any level of climber that you currently are or hope to be. In fact, all exercises, generally speaking, can be adjusted to whatever level that you currently are. And it doesn't matter if you're strong or weak, so long as you do them, you will reap the benefits. And you don't need to completely replace climbing with one full day of training. You could simply tack on 10 to 20 minutes at the end of your climbing session for doing some general strength work, which 10 to 20 minutes may not sound a lot, but 10 to 20 minutes to someone who's never done it before will really make you feel better on the wall. You're gonna get a stronger body. A stronger body means you're less prone to injury. Not to mention, stronger bodies look better, in my humble true opinion. A good starting place would be to increase the number of pull-ups you can do along with the number of push-ups that you can do. 4. Avoiding the wall angles. Weaker climbers tend to avoid the steep overhangs, and the stronger climbers tend to avoid slab. And I feel like there's like an unspoken rivalry between these two groups of people. It's kind of funny. But avoiding your anti-style, whatever you're bad at, or whatever you want to call it, is just a limitation on your max potential of climbing. You don't need to be great or good at everything, but you should try everything. And you should try everything that climbing has to offer in earnest. Learning how to climb at one particular angle will help you learn how to climb at another particular angle, even though the angles aren't exactly the same. Once I started moonboarding, it's not like I became the greatest climber or anything, but not only did I become more comfortable at a steeper angle, I could see how moonboarding was transferable to slab climbing and vice versa. Right, so for me, anytime I walk up to a wall, regardless of the angle, I'm always pretty comfortable on it, which is a really nice feeling that you too can acquire. 5. Underestimating feet. We all kind of know that you should use your feet if you want to climb at your very best, but I'm sure you shrugged it off thinking that as long as your feet are on the wall that you're utilizing it pretty well. And while the arms are made to pull you up and the legs are made to push you up, you gotta ask yourself sometimes, Are you actually pushing with your legs, or are your legs just becoming straight because you're lifting your body weight up with your arms? And I think one of the best ways to learn how to understand to utilize your feet and actually push with them is to climb at a particularly very steep angle of approximately 40 to 50 degrees. Mostly 50 degrees. On this particularly steep angle, you have to push down with your feet if you hope not to swing off of the wall. It forces your body to learn. And then once you take this skill and apply it to more vertical stuff, you will notice a difference in how you utilize your feet. It will make climbing much easier because you are now better. 6. Never going outdoors. It really opens your eyes to the possibility of hold types, and not to mention the difficulty of how hard climbing can actually be. Outdoor climbing kind of shows you how good you are when you're climbing scared. And this isn't a bad thing, it's just something new to overcome. And if you were to ask me, outdoor climbing is vastly way more satisfactory in terms of all metrics compared to indoor climbing. And it's hard to understand unless you ever given outdoor bouldering a really good hard shot and actually sent something hard outdoors. Granted, of course, it's not for everyone, but I think everyone should try a few times at least, for the perspective aspect at least. Though the barrier entry for outdoor bouldering is particularly high, so if you're not super strong, I recommend you try ropes instead, because with ropes, you're gonna still get that feeling of feeling rock underneath your skin. You're still gonna get a nice variety of handholds, and you're still gonna climb scared, except with ropes, you could do a lot of climbing, because a lot of outdoor rope climbs can be vastly scaled down to make it easier for anyone to enter. I hope that makes sense. 7. Over climbing. You know when your skin gets purple because you've been climbing for like 4 hours? You should probably stop, because you rather it take 1 to 2 days to heal versus climbing for additional 30 minutes and turning 1 to 2 days into like 3 to 4 days or continuously even longer than that. Because there is such a thing known as junk volume. It just means that any additional climbing that you do will not progress you as a climber. So once you reach this point, at this point in time, you should call it a day. You may have to go do some physical training or life type stuff. Though there is nothing particularly wrong with climbing more if you just like the act of climbing, but you should probably tape up your fingers or your hands to prevent totally flesh wounds from totally ruining your future sessions. Along with climbing easier climbs, may have to hop on some easy climbs and do some technique work, or repeat climbs that you've done before that aren't too difficult. For me, I like to start off warming up in the general area, go do some board climbing, completely destroy my fingers, and then finish off with slab if slab exists. Of course, this isn't what I always do, but it's just a general progression. 8. No repeats. After projecting and accomplishing and completely smashing a particularly very hard climb, most people will never repeat it again. But if you're able to repeat a previously very hard climb and you're able to repeat it easier this time, that means you're a better climber. And normally speaking, you should be able to repeat it easier this time around because you've done it once already. Because if we relate it to like exercise, right? With any exercise and load, you don't just do it once and forget about it. You repeat it over time until you become really, really proficient and excellent at it. And while you are not climbing anything new, you're doing old things better. And that means you're better than old you. Of course, don't go overboard and repeat the same climb 10,000 times. It's pretty normal to have a circuit of climbs that you repeat. And once it becomes too easily, you just bump it out of your category and add in a newer, harder one that you have yet to master. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, partner.